And now into our main topic here on Mastering Dungeons. We're going to continue our look at the D&D Unearthed Arcana subclasses that released just a bit ago. Last week, we tackled two of those new subclasses, the College of the Moon Bard, as well as the Knowledge Domain Cleric.
At one of our tables, someone said, I've got to change my cleric because I'm knowledge domain. I said, well, in November, you'll get it back. And they're like, oh, okay.
There you go. But even since we've only covered two of them, the survey that you can respond to was already up with a link in our show notes. So you can start to give your feedback on that. But we still have some things to cover before we give our feedback. And that is taking a step-by-step look at both of these new subclasses. And despite whatever we say, I ask you, please come up with your own review. Don't just mimic what we say. Think about what we say. Tell us why we're wrong. I'm very happy to be wrong. So, come up with your own. I don't want to be an influencer here. I want
wrong
to
all the time.
Yep, exactly. So let us be wrong now with the first subclass on the list, which is the Purple Dragon Knight Fighter. Mm-hmm. What is a Purple Dragon Knight, Teos?
They are a dragon in humanoid form, colored purple, which now I'm making that all up. They are tied to the history of Cormyr, and a realm that's maybe kind of your more typical medieval type of storyline with kings, and it really matters who the king is, and they're facing off against many enemies with chivalry involved, and so having war wizards and these purple dragon orders is very important to the whole story of it.
Yeah, Cormyr is like a central realm in the Forgotten Realms. Mm-hmm. And a novel called Cormyr, a Novel, was published in 1996, written by Ed Greenwood, creator of the Forgotten Realms, and Jeff Grubb, longtime game designer, world builder, content creator, etc. And it was really, really loved by many, many Forgotten Realms fans. This became like one of those, I am going to set all my campaigns in Cormyr now because the history of it and the richness of it was so well developed by this novel. And in the book, we learn that the Purple Dragon Knights are an elite member of the Cormyrian army, taking its name from this black dragon called Thoglor, who ruled the area before Cormyr became a nation, an official nation. And so it was defeated. It was the big enemy. But its scales it was so old that its scales went from black and started looking purple. So after defeating this dragon, Purple Dragon Knights became this knightly order, not in this dragon's honor, but sort of to spit in its eye.
Right. Formed from the defeat of this foe. That's awesome. So I'm expecting a subclass that's going to totally honor that. I'm excited for that.
Right. And so what we get is the Purple Dragon Knights, I'm quoting here, are paragons of valor and leadership who partner with amethyst dragons.
You misspoke there, Shawn. You said amethyst dragons. You previously said black, so I know you misspoke. They wouldn't get this wrong at Wizards of the Coast.
Right. Except I read it exactly as it's written. Such knights aspire to protect the innocent and rally fellow adventurers to the causes of justice and freedom. Okay, yeah. Although the Purple Dragons were originally founded in Cormyr, new recruits are enlisted from any realms where chivalry is in abundance, including the Silver Marches, Damara, and Chesenta. Okay, they're expanding.
Yeah. Franchise opportunities at the Purple Dragon Order.
Yeah. Characters with the subclass are special among the Order. So these are very special members of the Purple Dragon Knights who do what? Unlike most purple dragons who partner with amethyst dragons who've already reached adulthood, a Purple Dragon Knight character psionically bonds with an amethyst dragon hatchling This bond irrevocably transformed both dragon and knight, allowing the dragon to grow in strength alongside its partner knight.
Huh. Oh, look at that.
Okay. Let me say right now, I am the first person to say change lore when you need to. If you've got a cool story and the lore is a little off, change it. Change it. Always respect the lore. Change it as little as possible. Change it as little as possible, but change it if you must. Right? Don't be shackled by lore, but do no harm. Right? Change it as little as possible to keep it, because there were these creators who created this. There are these fans who've loved this. So respect their time and their energy as well. And this stepped over that line for me. I was reading it and I'm like, what?
Well, and also, this is an update of the Purple Dragon Knight fighter subclass from Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. So I had to just go open this and say, where's all that dragon business coming from? And it's not here either. So it's like they threw in this whole, and this now explains, I saw, I don't know that I should name them, but I saw a person who has written novels for D&D who sort of was kind of coughing up their lungs online over the lore here and saying this is completely incompatible with the lore that I'm aware of. I forget their exact words, but kind of just going like, what did wizards do? Like, this is why you should involve us kind of thing. And as you said, I don't have a problem with someone saying, I'm re-envisioning this, but it should be for a reason and for payoff. And that does seem quite bizarre to make such a huge switch to Amethyst Dragons. I also have problems with this. I'm just going to throw this in. Maybe this doesn't matter to some folks, but to me, the Gem Dragons are something that any edition will usually not have at its beginning. And then they appear in certain books. And so it's kind of off kilter to center them. Because they are not a center thing. Whereas if it had been about black dragons that you've somehow transformed or whatever, which I don't love either, but at least it would be a core dragon that you're going to know all about, and you're going to have the lore at your fingertips in the monster manual and so on. But when you go off of Gem Dragons, I think this belongs in that book, not elsewhere, if it makes sense.
I totally agree. So what I would like to do now is full stop, forgive this lore change.
Got it. Well, I like it.
Let's move forward with this class based on some sort of, you are a fighter who is bonded with a dragon, and it is going to be about you and your dragon.
Totally.
Let's get behind that. Let's be fans of that particular thing. And we will go forward seeing how this subclass works. So at level 3, you get Knightly Envoy. You learn an additional language and cast Comprehend Languages as a ritual. All right, I'm going to assume now that this is not just a fighter. This is knightly. We're treading dangerously close to Paladin territory here.
Yes.
But all right, let's say you are part of this knighthood that's all about interacting with folks, doing good and just and wonderful things. Cool. Fine. Third level. Gotcha. Purple Dragon Companion is the other level 3 ability. Gain an Amethyst Dragon Hatchling Companion. Okay. We have a stat block for that companion. Do you want to sort of walk us through that stat block, Teos?
Sure. Yeah. So it's one of these that is pretty brief. It has, your typical, it modifies based on use. So the AC is 13 plus intelligence modifier. Hit points is 4 plus 4 times your fighter level. So it can kind of grow with you. It has no official CR because it's tied to you. It's amphibious, so it can breathe water as well. You add half your proficiency bonus round down to an ability check or saving throw the dragon makes. And it gets 2 possible actions. A rend for +3 plus your intelligence modifier to hit, does D6 plus your intelligence modifier force damage. Gravity breath twice per day, constitution save, DC 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your intelligence modifier to in a 15-foot cone. If you fail, you're pulled up to 15 feet straight toward the dragon. Pulled up to 15 feet straight toward the dragon, or pushed 15 straight away. So 15 feet towards it or away. Your choice. So you can kind of move them around in this gravity breath, but it doesn't do any damage or anything, just repositions them horizontally.
Okay.
Or in whatever direction, I guess they are from the dragon. My
first question, there's other things about this companion that we will talk about, but I want to say right now, okay, let me check the monster manual for the Amethyst Dragon to see what Teos mentioned this. No mention, at least my search did not find the word amethyst in the monster manual.
No.
All right, so 5 years from now, assuming they're not already working on amethyst and gem dragons, do we now come back to this and say, well, amethyst dragons must have this gravity breath, must have amphibious, must have these sorts of things? I don't know. This isn't a complaint. This is a future-proofing your design. Are we stuck here? And if we're not stuck here, what's going to happen when I don't give this amethyst dragon gravity breath or amphibious or so on?
And we should say that if you go to Fizzbands, you will find that their breath weapon is gravity, tied to gravity, their singularity breath, but it does damage and it reduces their speed to 0. Right. So it's a different kind of, it doesn't even reflect the 5th edition Amethyst Dragon necessarily, which is a little strange.
Little bit. So, okay. So what else do we get with this companion? It can move and use reactions on its own, and it always takes the dodge action unless you use your bonus action to command it to do one of its own actions. If the dragon dies, within an hour, you can take the magic action and expend a second wind to resurrect it 1 minute later with full hit points. Otherwise, you must perform a 1 hour ceremony as part of and it can be as part of a shorter long rest to resurrect your dragon.
Yeah, we've seen this in a couple of things, and I hate it. I'll just say, it's not like I can deal with it, but I dislike it as a approach to replacing your companion, right? We used to have, I think in 3rd edition, it was sort of like, depending on how, it would be like, we've seen across the editions, a week, a day, but an hour seems to me like, then I want to know what this thing is made of. Is it made of weird motes of light and it isn't really a creature? Because what is there, a hidden repository of purple dragons somewhere? It just feels like it's a weird video gamey thing rather than having a lore and story. It also means that when your dragon dies, you could care less.
Yeah. And so if you flip over to fun, flavorful, and effing balanced, the fun, perhaps, flavorful, just weird, off the chart weird. And it'll get weirder as we go.
Yeah.
So let me talk about the Dragon Rider feature, which is level 7. The dragon grows to medium, and you can use it as a mount if you are medium or smaller. While you're riding it, the dragon falls at the end of a turn if it's airborne, and if the only thing holding it aloft is its fly speed. It takes you only 5 feet of movement to mount or dismount the dragon, and then its gravity breath becomes a cone of 30 feet, and failed saves do 2d6 force damage. And so now we have not only this strange, we can just resurrect it repeatedly. Now it grows to medium. And now for me, we're outside the realm of even trying to come up with lore to connect dragon riders, amethyst dragons, and this sort of magical connection. It is.
Yeah.
I have so many questions now, and it's not about this. It's about amethyst dragons. It's like, are they? I just want this to be a summoned steed, but it's a dragon.
Right.
I don't want it
they've
connected.
Worked, the lore fights against the design. This makes more sense if it was a dragonelle that you were companioned with or something, and you're trained. Like the purple dragon part of it fights and the amethyst part both fight what it is. Yeah. I'm glad that the gravity breath gets damaged, but this is one of those problems with 5th edition as a whole with its subclass thing is that you have level 3 and you have level 7. Level 7 could be right at the end of the campaign, and it feels like it's finally establishing its story of what this thing does. Mm-hmm. And it's too late for it. I finally get to do damage with my mount's breath, and I can finally ride it, and now I feel like I have a mount. Well, it might be the end of your campaign, right? Or maybe you get 7 to 10 to where a lot of people's campaigns drop off, but it's late in the game to be what it is. If the point is to be a rider of this thing, I think you should do that at level 3. And forget whatever the story stuff is that you're trying to force in here. You want to make a cool mounted fighter, do that. Because also build-wise, I've gone through all this build for 6 levels that is not about mounted combat, probably. Mm-hmm. And now suddenly it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's... I have no problem with the mechanics so far because I can't even focus on the mechanics. Right? I'm focused on all of this weird... I'm focused on all of this other weird stuff.
Yeah.
And I can't even imagine the playability of it and how it would interact with the other fighter features. Because my brain is just going 100 miles an hour about the other stuff. So,
I think they should hire
if
Dan
I'm
Dillon
writing
back.
What's that?
They should hire Dan Dillon back, I think.
That might not be a bad idea. So anyway, we'll move forward to level 10, Rallying Surge. When you use your second one to regain hit points, the dragon also regains hit points equal to 1d6 plus your fighter level, and it regains a use of its gravity breath. Mm-hmm. You could normally do it twice a day. When you use your action surge, you can choose up to 3 allies within a 30-foot emanation originating from you. Each ally can take a reaction to use one of the following 2 options. Advance, the ally makes 1 attack with a weapon or unarmed strike. If your purple dragon is one of the allies using advance, the dragon can make 1 rend attack. Or retreat, the ally moves up to half its speed without provoking opportunity attacks. So now we're at 7th level, and we're getting into this.
Or 10th level.
You can 10th level. We're finally getting into and your allies.
Yeah.
Which is sort of the whole point, or one of the big points of the class before.
Yeah, I mean, all mounted stuff is tricky, and I think those of us who played in 3rd edition where there was a lot of this going on saw those problems over and over again, right? You've got even if it's a medium mount you could handle, but a lot of times mounts, had trouble with stairs or with whatever the environments are in dungeons. You're going down a ladder. How does your mount do this? You're on a boat. How do you do this? And so I think, to me, anything mount has to always answer those questions and save you from all these varied problems. And there's some things here that do, like the ability, like I really like that level 7 shared second wind. The idea of, you heal yourself is very fightery, right? Because I'm going to keep going, and your dragon's doing that too. I love that. I think that's super cool. So I don't want to think people I'm just being negative on this, but it feels like this is all a little kind of catching up for the fact that level 3 was so far off. And so everything's happening a little later than it should.
Yeah. And then level 15, the Amethyst Pinnacle, you get superior mount. The purple dragon grows to a large size, and both its speed and fly speed increase to 40 feet, and it no longer falls at the end of a turn if airborne while you're riding it.
It did that through level 14? Oh my
God. All the way through level 14, you can't ride it for more than a round, basically. It has to land every round. At least that's the way I'm reading this.
Yeah, no.
So obviously move that back to level 7 at least. Yeah. So you can feel like you're actually a dragon rider, not a dragon hopper, I guess. I don't know. And you can also do tandem attack at level 15. When you take the attack action on your turn, you forego one of your attacks to command the dragon to make one rend attack. Or
won't
you
want to do.
can alternatively forego two of your attacks to command it to do gravity breath. Uh, Gravity breath would then be a 30-foot cone doing 2d6 damage. 30-foot cone, 2d6 damage
Yeah.
plus push or pull. I don't know if at 15th level you're going to want to give up two of your attacks to maybe
No.
do 2d6 damage.
This feels really rushed. Like this is the if this were a third party thing, I would be um from a new designer or something like. And I'm not trying to be harsh, but I don't. This feels like really off. And we reviewed the others. The others felt a lot better, both the new and updated ones that were early in this document that we did last show. This one just feels to misfire on all counts. I don't. To me, that's a really weird choice. However they did the math here on this just does not see if they think that that's the equivalent math of what a fighter does at level 15, right? Or did this go through some rush edits at the last second? I don't know what happened, but that's really bizarre for level 15.
Yeah. And then level 18, Enduring Commander, you and your purple dragon have resistance to force and psychic damage.
That's incredibly exciting. Okay.
I understand that it's good to have resistance to force and psychic damage, I guess. Maybe I haven't checked all the high level monsters that they all do force damage.
Yeah, they it's great. If you're going to pick one, that's a good one. But I mean, still, like, it's not the exciting thing of what level 18 could do.
I feel like this is something where if I have an idea, I would do like a really quick, all right, here are some ideas. Then let's go back and let's change and fix and pass it off to an editor and let's do, not an editor, I should say developer.
Yeah,
right?
developer. Yeah.
Somebody who will say, no, this and I feel like this was that first draft that never quite got passed along.
And that's my biggest thing. Across 5th edition, I feel like somehow D&D has lost developers. If it does have developers, they somehow do not have the voice to say, hey, everybody, this is inconsistent and needs to be redone. And I think like that's what 5th edition could most have used, whether we're talking about adventures or anything, like just someone who has the authority to say, what I'm seeing here is too disparate, doesn't align with what the tagline on the cover. Give me another version of this. Pick a lane and develop that. I think it would be really cool to have a mounted fighter that has a really neat kind of companion dragon thing. But this is trying to do too many things and too late. And they're so afraid of the flying that if you're afraid of the flying and don't want to make the flying cool, then make it something different, right? Or make the fly thing that it does in certain situations. Like that's the resource, is that you can do the cool fly thing because it's part dragon, but don't defang what sounds cool about being on a dragon. Like if you imagine I'm a fighter that rides a dragon, you're not imagining yourself being land-bound for 14 levels past probably the end of your campaign. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. If I'm running this project, make me a cavalier. Right.
Yes.
Right now we have Battlemaster Champion, Eldritch Knight, and Psy Warrior. Make me a cavalier, and let's get the cavalier dead to rights, and then we will have a base from which we can work on things like this.
And that would fit perfectly as a purple dragon knight if you just made a normal land-bound cavalier. That could be if you wanted to be purple dragon themed. Though honestly, I wouldn't, because I don't see the point of pigeonholing it lore-wise that way, but you could.
Yep. Or you could make one based on the Cavalier and do some extra things with it.
I mean, this is going to go in that Forgotten Realms books. It's fine to make something purple dragon themed as the example of what it is, and just say, hey, this can stand in for any order of knights. But I think, which is even less with what the current thing is about this amethyst dragon, doesn't fit in a lot of organizations. So it's actually worse for that, right? Because it's so specific to a concept that doesn't even actually fit its own lore. But even if it did, would be like so narrow in view that you maybe wouldn't want to use it elsewhere.
For sure. All right, so let's move on then, shall we,
Yes.
to the Paladin.
Mm-hmm.
The Paladin we have been given is the Oath of the Noble Genies.
Mm-hmm.
Paladins sworn to the Oath of the Noble Genies revere the forces of the elemental planes. Through taking this oath, paladins draw power from the four different types of genies: Tao, masters of earth; Jinn, masters of air; Efreet, masters of fire; and Marids, masters of water, to create splendid and destructive displays of elemental might. On Faerun, many paladins who swear this oath hail from Kalimshan, a land rife with genie kind. Despite their strong local ties, these Kalashite paladins often undertake quests that take them all over the realms and across the multiverse, including, of course, the elemental planes. Okay.
Yeah, I like
So
that.
yeah,
I think that's really cool. I
yeah,
think Callum
we're
Sham type
getting
flavor has been there
mhm,
before, so it could tie into those other, the genie, what is it, warlock class, right? So this could be cool.
right.
I dig it.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, basically, what we're getting is an elemental paladin,
Sure. Yep.
and
Yep.
here's the lore that matches that the best in the Forgotten Realm. So here you go.
Yep.
And so rather than starting with a very specific theme and trying to make it fit, we're starting with Elemental Paladin, and okay, and there's the place it fits. Cool. Uh, what it's a paladin, it has to have tenets. So three tenets are: beget creation with destruction, lead with splendor and grace, and respect the elements and fear their wrath. Lead with splendor and grace. There you go. That's a you as this paladin
Yep.
should do this thing. I don't know if they mean like fluid movement with grace or if they mean
Mm,
kindness and forgiveness, but I'll
yeah.
assume kindness and forgiveness. So be splendorous and be kind and forgiving.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, okay.
Maybe.
Uh, but at least it's a thing. Beget creation with destruction. I understand what beget means. I understand what creation means. I understand what with means, and I understand what destruction means. I don't know what all of that together actually means. Uh,
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, you're a paladin, right? So generally, you're a protector, a uniter, and so this is
yeah,
all very weird. Like, I don't know what.
it's
Yeah,
like
I don't know what to do with that.
destroy things to create things. Maybe. How do you create then through destroying? I don't know.
Yep.
Uh, respect the elements and fear their wrath. I don't. I don't know what that means as a code. Respect the elements. Elements are elements. You can. How do you disrespect elements?
I think in
I'm
a
going to go
Callum
smash that
Shan
fire.
in a Callum Shan kind of aspect, I can make it sense because then elements
Okay.
permeate the land, and this is a harsh world of sort of those elements being precious and so on. So respecting
Okay.
them, their wrath, their scarcity, that can make some sense in that kind of context. In your average world, it might be a little harder to see how this fits in, right?
Even in that respect, though, this isn't something that is hard to do. This
Mm.
isn't something that you need to have an oath
Okay,
to
I see.
respect survival and fear destruction. That's
Yeah.
everyone sort of does that.
Yeah, so I get what you're saying. We need better codes here to kind of
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
paladin.
Tell
Yeah, yeah,
tell
hmm
me why my life is harder
yeah.
because I have taken these codes or
Right.
this tenet.
Yeah, I've
Right?
sworn to never love, or I've sworn to
Yeah.
always oppose oppression. Right? Those are things that are
Mm,
put you into conflict, but these things don't
yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It's not a huge deal, but flavor wise, as
Yeah,
a player, I just want to know.
yeah.
I
No,
just
that's
want to
cool. Hmm.
know this. So let's talk about each power. Level 3, Elemental Smite. After you use your Divine Smite, you can use your Channel Divinity to do one of these three things: teleport to an unoccupied space within 30 feet and take on a mist-like form, which lasts until the end of your next turn. And while you're in this form, you have immunity to the grappled, prone, and restrained conditions. Cool. You
Hmm.
could do an extra 2d4 fire damage to the target. Okay. Place the target and each creature of your choice into a 10-foot emanation originating from you. All must make a strength saving throw against your spell DC, and if they fail, they are pushed 15 feet away from you and have the prone condition. So you can smite and then teleport, do extra damage, or blow people away from you.
And there's one more to reflect the four elements.
Oh.
Dao's Crush. The target
I
has
didn't even see that.
The target has the grappled condition, escape DC equal to your spell save DC while grappled, they are restrained. So yeah, so I mean, so what I immediately see from this is you are of the four elements, and you can manifest things that, like if we think of like fourth edition with designing the what were the elemental species? I can't think of right now. What are they called?
I know
right.
What you mean.
And each one has a way of, I release water from me. I, make difficult terrain around me. Genasi, thank you. So, like it's like this, right? So we're getting little mini ways to represent the elements, which I think a lot of players would totally dig. And so you have this elemental paladin. I think this can be cool. You can manifest it. Yeah. You're not choosing one. You are of all four. And okay, cool.
Level 3, you also have a bunch of always prepared elemental spells, as makes sense. And at level 3, you also get Genie's Splendor. When you aren't wearing medium or heavy armor, you gain a bonus to your AC equal to your charisma modifier with a minimum of +1. Okay. I read this and ding, 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 warning bells started going off. They have really avoided this sort of add this extra +3 to your existing armor class. Right? With Monk, it used to be add your wisdom modifier to your AC. What they do instead is say your AC is 8 plus this. And this is the first time, I haven't obviously studied 2024 completely, but this is the first time I've seen them just say straight up, add this to your armor class.
Yeah, that's interesting. And it's good because it means that, you could have a bunch of magic items that give you benefits to your AC, and those would all still count. And
you could be a monk barbarian,
right?
Monk barbarian.
So you could. You're right. Yeah. It's not whatever. A separate calculation, because Jeremy Crawford is always underscoring that, like a separate way to calculate, so you can't stack them. Here, this is stackable.
It's totally stackable. So now I'm going to be a sorcerer paladin. I get that +3, +4, +5 charisma added to the armor that I wear. You make a dex-based paladin, which is totally possible in 2024, wearing light armor plus your dex plus your charisma now. Now you have a shield, you add another 2, right? This is adding on rather than refiguring.
Yeah.
And with Genie's Splendor, you also gain proficiency in one of the following skills: acrobatics, intimidation, performance, or persuasion. Yep. Any thoughts on the level 3 stuff that we haven't covered?
I mean, everything we've said, overall, the concept-wise, I'm down with it. I don't understand the armor thing, but I hope that's leaning somewhere. I don't get the why of it, but hopefully we'll figure out why. I liked the other stuff. I thought was pretty good.
Yeah. I'm down with everything so far, minus that one little question. Aura of Elemental Shielding at level 7. Choose one of the following types: acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder. You and your allies have resistance to that damage while in your aura of protection. And at the start of each of your turns, you can change the damage type to one of the others with no action required. Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, yes. Yep.
Level 15, Elemental Rebuke. When you are hit by an attack roll, you can take a reaction to have the attack's damage against yourself and force the attacker to make a dexterity saving throw against your DC. On a failed save, the attacker takes damage equal to 4d10 plus your charisma modifier. The damage is one of the following types that you can choose: acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder. On a successful save, the attacker takes half the damage, and you can use this feature a number of times equal to your charisma modifier, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest.
It seems strong. That's pretty fun.
Yeah. At 15th level, No,
Yep.
no,
Cool.
no qualms with that. And at 20th level, Noble Scion. As a bonus action, you gain the benefits below for 10 minutes or until you end them. No action required on that. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest, but you can expend a level 5 spell slot in order to refresh it. What do you get? You get flight. You have a fly speed of 60 and can hover, and a minor wish. When you or an ally in your aura of protection fails a d20 test, you can take a reaction to make the d20 test succeed instead of fail. And I'm cool with that.
I'm generally cool with it. The problem is this whole spend a bonus action and this feature that I can't get until I take another long rest that lasts for 10 minutes. And I sure hope that I didn't use this at the wrong time.
Yeah.
So it's a little, especially that minor wish is a little, but because you're getting both things, I think it's probably fine. It's probably because you'll probably do it when you want to benefit from that fly speed and then additionally use the minor wish. But I'm always a little bit afraid of things where it's like, spend this now because you're hoping that in the next 10 minutes, this will get used a fair bit.
Yeah.
Leads to analysis paralysis or wasting it and feeling bad.
Yeah. I mean, I can see it being like, okay, we're about to fight the flying fortress and all of the dragons that are flying around. I know I'm going to need to fly, and I don't have 12 different ways that I could fly, even though you probably will at 20th level. So I know I'm going to use the bonus action. I can fly, and once per round, basically, I can use my reaction if I want to help people make that save or make that attack roll.
Honestly,
if they need to.
If there's one theme I had playing my bard this last weekend with the 2024 rules, I don't understand why we're using bonus actions for so many things. Like, I wonder, is the point that I'm saying Noble Scion, some rounds will be a cost? Like, this is a friction that you have to spend a bonus action to do this? Or could this just be as no action? Why is it eating my bonus action? Is it to tie it to the world and explain it to the rules of D&D because things should take actions? Is it because you're trying to apply a cost to it? I don't quite get why we're using so many bonus actions for these kinds of things.
Here's what I noticed while playing this weekend. And it's this idea that if I'm spending any resource at all, I should get everything out of it. And I think we've sort of gone a little too far in this idea that every choice I make needs to be optimal and every choice I make needs to be a benefit. And I wouldn't care if you said as free action you can do these things. But I want there to, if we're going to play tactically, I want there to be consequences for choices.
So it's this, not the other. Yeah. Okay.
Right. So here's an example. At one table, I had the character I was playing had both shield and defensive duelist. So as a reaction, I could either get a +3 or a +5 to my AC. At one table, the DM every single time said, all right, I got a 17 to hit you. Does that hit? No. Okay, yes, I want to use shield. Oh, I don't need to use shield. I can use defensive duelist this time to save myself a slot, right? At the next table, the game master would not tell me the attack roll and forced me to choose which one. And I might not even succeed if I do that. That is a different game. I contend to you that is a completely different game at those two tables.
And we haven't told DMs exactly what they are, maybe? Right. Or
and I am totally cool with both of those.
Yeah.
I am totally cool with being told, I'm not going to tell you. You make your choice. I am totally cool with the DM telling me every time. So, but we have to know the game we're playing.
Yeah.
And If this is, I need to make a choice between 12 different bonus actions, I'm cool with that. But I feel like we are at the point where players, I hate to use the word entitled because
Sure.
that's too strong a word, but players are beginning to feel like they need to control all aspects of the game that their characters even come close to interacting with
Mm.
with and I'm cool with it being no, you do need to waste a bonus action to get this. If you don't want this, then don't use the bonus action. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to figure through. I don't have a hard feeling on it because I'm still trying to work through what it was like to play my bard,
Mm-hmm.
and this the design of this bard where I had, and this was not something I heavily customized. It was just a bard of glamour that I kind of reskinned to be a different concept thematically, but it's a
Right.
glamour bard, right? It's just stock, and I have so many bonus actions.
Mm-hmm.
So every round, I'm thinking through all of these. And it's not that I want to do all the things. So there's definitely that aspect of
Right.
control. At the very least, you're trying to keep from doing 20 things in a round. But they're already, what I would argue, if I just go back, my main feeling is this class has too much to it.
Mm-hmm.
I can bonus action command you. I can bonus action frighten you or charm you. I can bonus action blah, blah, blah. I can da, da, da. Like just, and then all the spells that I have on top of it that may be bonus actions, on top of the fact that I'm a spellcasting class and various other things. Like, it's just so many bonus
Mm-hmm.
actions. What I would really like design wise is take away a lot of this and narrow it down to a few really cool things. And maybe those things are flexible so it doesn't feel like there isn't complexity to it. But it's almost, if you create this much to each
Mm-hmm.
class, then it feels well, I have two thoughts. One is, if you create this much to a class, then you're creating a number of problems for yourself and for gameplay.
For sure.
Second, the original vision for bonus actions was sort of to allow for those exceptions to where you needed another action
Mm-hmm.
economy type, because strictly saying standard move was
Mm-hmm.
limiting to play, and I think that's true for 5th edition D&D. I
Mm-hmm.
think other games, it's fine to just have one thing you do and you're done. D&D kind of is better with a little more. But
Mm-hmm.
what's happened is we've filled that design hole endlessly. It's
Right.
almost okay, I'm creating a subclass. How can I give it bonus actions? And sometimes the answer is multiple bonus actions. And then that just creates all this stuff, all this weight that the player must deal with and the game itself must deal with, when what it wants to be is a fast game of imagination with some fun teeth behind it, right?
But as soon as you put bonus action in, you are no longer a fast game of imagination. Now you are a game of making choices. And if you have bonus actions that are allowed, players are going to want to use them. If your design choice
You're
then
right.
becomes give more bonus actions or give more choices the characters can make, players can make for their characters, or make the characters more powerful by making the things they can already do better. So now you have either 12 choices that are all hopefully good depending on the situation you're in, or two choices that are just much better than everything else anyone else can do.
Yeah.
And if you want a game that's one way, you can make a game that's one way. If you want a game that's another way, you do that. If you have a game where you try to be both, you're going to end up with some very hard design choices to make, or some frustrated players going, I could do 7 different bonus actions and I don't know which one to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to go play Shadow Dark instead because I could just do these two
Right.
things and
Yeah.
I can be very happy doing that. And
Yeah.
even looking at this, I was looking at this subclass and I'm thinking, this is a good subclass. This is good. Thematically fun, flavorful, balanced, good. There's too many subclasses already.
Mm.
This is like the first possible expansion to the 2024, and I feel like there's too many. I feel like there's too many already. I feel like there's rules blow. Now, this is because I'm like designing 26 other subclasses right now.
Yeah.
That is definitely affecting my brain.
Sure.
But I
Sure.
feel like I want to play a fighter, or I want to play a paladin, and I want to do this thing, and I want to have these 2 or 3 choices, and I want to be fast. And
Yeah.
that's not the game. That's not what D&D
No.
2024 is.
No. I mean, 2014 wasn't quite it either, but I think
Right.
because its subclasses were a little more mundane in nature, it
Hmm.
felt a little more like it was just a flavor of the class versus a big concept that takes you out of
Yeah.
the fighter realm. And we super saw that with the Purple Dragon Knight, where it was like you are, you're a mounted combatant of this Amethyst Dragon companion, right? Here for this Paladin, we're seeing a real strong elemental feel that takes you
Hmm.
out of the core Paladin play somewhat, especially with those, like you said. I mean, that's the thing about the oaths that then starts, like what part of this is a Paladin? Okay, the
Hmm.
aura of shielding. The rebuke is a little bit protective, right? But it's a lot of it that's not super paladinish necessarily.
Yeah.
The minor wish. So yeah, it's interesting. And I do think that happens the more you have lots of subclasses, you lose that common thread and that
Hmm.
original goal you had when you did the classes, and revisioning the edition doesn't reset all that the way that a 6e would have, right? Because you're keeping all that other stuff alive, and because just your brain accepts as a designer all these things that have been before.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's an easy thing that I would say, to go back to a little point you made. If I look at all of this, one of my first thoughts is, oh, cool, these are the subclasses in this book. There's too many of them.
Hmm.
Like,
Right.
just as a goal, too many for the good of the game, maybe, you know, but I get what they want to do, right? You want to give each
Yeah.
class a subclass. And so
Hmm.
here we
Yeah.
go.
It's the age old TTRPG problem of wanting to give players what they want,
Yeah.
and maybe what the players want is not in the best interest of the actual mechanics of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. But as you said, like, pulling back a bit, this is a cool subclass in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
Good theme, pretty neat. I Going back to that question I had at level 3, I don't know why they have that armor piece in there. So, especially given that it
Mhm.
could be problematic or broken, just get that out of there. I
Mhm.
don't know what it's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't
Story
know
wise, it
either,
doesn't
but
fit. It doesn't. Other features don't tie into it or explain it. So I
yeah.
would not give that. I would do something else there. I don't know why it would be a light armor person. Nothing else makes me feel it should be that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. So, any other thoughts overall on those 2 subclasses?
Well, no. Looking, we've got a number left, and I think maybe a question for listeners and for you is, are we done here? Do we want? I'm enjoying reviewing these. I'm learning from reviewing these, so I'm totally down with continuing.
I'm
But I don't know,
I'm
maybe
I'm fine with
listeners.
that. I
Cool.
think, people in another 2 weeks, more people will have the monster manual,
Yeah,
and we can dig into that.
that's
But I
true.
think
Yeah,
until that point, I think just
do at
going
least one
through
more.
and just making
Yeah,
some notes on these, and talking about them. I think I'm having fun, and hopefully the
yeah,
listeners are enjoying it as well.
cool.
Awesome. So we know what we're doing next week, unless things change. And thank you out there, listeners. We're talking about you as if you're not there, but you are there. You are out there listening. Uh, Thank you for doing so. Some of you have already helped us out by backing our Patreon at patreon.com/masteringdnd. We have Master of Dungeon supporters. Thank you so much for your support. Master of Realm supporters are listed here in our show notes. And Masters of the Multiverse, you get mentioned right now, starting with Agile Monk of Fantasy Campaign Workshops, Keith Ammon of The Monsters Know What They're Doing, Lou Anders at Lazy Wolf Studios, Craig Bailey, Dave Bastiensen, Steve Bissonette, Merrick Blackman, Calvin Bridges of Alos, Robo Ballin, Dead Inertia DM, welcome, Evil John, Eve Evan at Nimbleco, Will Doyle, Andy Edmonds at Nerdronomicon.com, James Fisher, Scott Fitzgerald Gray at Insane Angel Studios, William Harshman of Rune Forge Tabletop Gaming, Ben Heisler and Paige Lightman, Shawn Hurst, Hyperlexic, Mark and Mary's Gaming Compound, The Mighty Jerd, JR of the Twilight Perspective, Brian King, Jim Klingler, aka DM Prime Mover, Chad Lynch, Paul Mata, the Mathemagician, Eric Mengi, Anna B. Meyer of Fantasy Cartography, Trey McLemore, John Mickey, Mighty Zeus, Shawn Malley, Falcon Neal, Tom Nelson of the Deck of Player Safety, DT Norris of DT and Dragons, Phil Wirt from the Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo, Frog Prince at Tentacles Squelching Wetly, Post-Fiction RPG Audio, Robert Pasley, Vladimir Prenner from Croatia, Pugnus Ozymandias Rex, Rudder Rick, Chance Russo at Drago Russo, Andy Shockme, Krishna Samose, Tim Smith, welcome, Spark from Dunner Games, Josh and Liwanika of the Tabletop Journeys podcast, Talos the Stormlord, Jeremy Talaman from D&D and TV podcast, Trace, Joe Tyler, Marcelo de Velasquez, the Valiant DM, James Walton, Graham Ward, Jason Ward from Accidental Cyclops Games, Javier Waziak, Chris Webster, Zach Types, and Walt Winfrey. Thank you so much for your support. And like I said before, you can become a patron by going to patreon.com/masteringdnd. Teos, where can people find you and your stuff?
Find me at alphastream.org. I think I still have another Monster Manual video in me, but I'm not sure when it'll be since Winter Fantasy dominated all. Where do we find you, Shawn?
On all the socials at Shawn Merwin. That's SHAWN Merwin. You can also find the show's link at Mastering D&D on those same socials. And you can go to the Mastering Dungeons YouTube channel where you can give the thumbs up and the likes and the comments and all the stuffs there. So we have survived Winter Fantasy. We have survived news and commentary. We've gotten through a couple more subclasses. What are we going to do now?
I'm going to go, turn on my design chops and redesign the Purple Dragon Knight so it's all about cats.
Purple Cat Knight. I like it. Yeah, I think I'm going to go check out a world building link there at Wizards of the Coast and see if I can entice any of my students into paying a little bit more attention in class.
That's great. That's a level 10 feature.
Oh, for sure.